Okay, good morning, everybody. On today's webinar, we're running a session which is all about getting ready for Windows 11. And you've got myself, Mark Shirley from App Technology, and Ben Cook from Management Studio, who will be on to walk you through the tool sets. So what we're going to be showing you today, we're going to be showing you how you can get ready for Windows 11, specifically using existing data in your estate. One of the biggest challenges we've found when looking at planning a migration to Windows 11 is knowing where to start. And what we're looking to do here is pull together that information for you that allow you to start planning ahead with some additional insight and guidance for your project. And that's what your Engage report is going to do. So we're going to be pulling together information in your estate and pulling this report together that will help you move forward with your project. And the key thing here is this is a free cost engagement from us, really to just get you guys started. I've already said that you've got a lot of data in your estate already. And what we find in most organizations is you've got a lot of data out there. So you'll have tools in your estate like SCCM, which will tell you lots of information about devices and computers, applications. You'll also have lots of data in your estate about people within Active Directory. You'll have other information in your estate that enriches that, things like location information, which you might be able to extract, or additional business information that might exist in some of your HR management tools that might start giving you extra information about users like departments and things like that. And what we do within this engagement is we pull all of that data and information together into knowledge, and we use that knowledge to create your Engage report. And with this, we can then start taking all of that information that exists in your estate and pulling together some insights into your environment. Now, in terms of getting the most out of your existing data and what you'll get out of this, you can see on the screen now, there's a lot of findings that will come out in your report. And we'll be focusing on pulling together planning positives for you. So this is where you might find that you've got applications that are already compatible and ready for Windows 11. You might have some devices that are already for migration. We can help you identify applications that have been recently updated so you know that they're current within your estate, and look at devices in your estate by make, model, region, location, and department, depending on the information that we can extract. With this, we can then help look at savings opportunities for your project. And this could be through looking at applications that aren't used in your estate that just can be removed, which can both reduce license costs potentially, as well as just costs for the migration. So you're not moving applications and migrating applications that just aren't used. Looking at identifying unused devices that you can reclaim and recycle to avoid hardware spend. And look at application duplication in your estate. And this can be looking at applications where you've got multiple versions, as well as applications where you might find that you have multiple vendors or multiple products all performing the same capability that could be rationalized and normalized down to a single application. From a budgeting perspective, we can look at identifying where there are devices out there that are out of vendor support, where you've got devices that are out of warranty, and simply devices that won't support Windows 11 or applications that won't support Windows 11, and then allow you to plan ahead for your project with that information in mind. So you can start looking at your hardware refresh costs and cadences of rolling things out if you need to do refresh and swap outs. And then finally, what the other key area we'll be looking at is identifying proactive security elements to your project. So where you've got levers and unused devices in your estate that might pose a security risk, where you've got devices that are either not receiving security updates or are perhaps just not reporting correctly into SCCM and getting updates accurately. And we can also, through looking at your applications, identify where you've got non-business applications. And by that, I mean applications that have potentially been manually installed that could be a support risk or a security risk to your estate. One of the key things with this engagement, so not only, and I know I said at the beginning, this is a free to run engagement, but it's also quick to run. So typically we'll take less than 30 minutes where we will connect through remotely to one of your engineers and deploy the connection pack with them. This will then anonymize the data from your estate and send it through to Management Studio. Management Studio will work with us to create a Windows 11 Engage report for you, which pulls together all of that knowledge that we talked about earlier. And then we will look to roughly 10 to 15 days after that initial deployment run a workshop with you. And the reason we look to run the workshop is it helps us to deep dive into your Engage report with you. We can then review through the data in that report and the observations that are contained within it. We can help explain some of the logic behind those observations and discuss areas that might be surprising to you. And then we can also highlight within that report where we see opportunities for optimization, cost savings, and automation as part of your project. So not only is it free to run and quick to run, it's also very easy to set up. To run the Engage reports, simply all we need is access to Active Directory and SCCM, or Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager as it's now called. We need an engineer account with read-only permissions to those areas. And we need a single device to run the connection pack on. So there's no agents that need to be rolled out for this. There's no complex setup to be done. The engineer device that we run it on simply needs to have connectivity back to Management Studio Cloud to send that anonymized data back to. And as I said before, this can all be run over a remote session. What I'll do now is I'll hand over to Ben Cook, who will walk through a quick demonstration of the underlying tool set that will pull together your Engage report and help dive through some of the more detailed observations from that.
Great stuff. Thanks, Mark. I'm just going to share my screen. There we go. Hopefully you can see that okay. So my name is Ben Cook. I work for Management Studio. The plan for the next 10 minutes or so is that I want to show you a little bit about how we're generating the Engage report. So it's a PDF report, as Mark mentioned. It's typically quite a lot of data in there, something like 30 odd pages of graphs and data and insights into your estate. But how do we actually generate that data? Well, we use a tool. This is our product. It's called Management Studio. This is the tooling that pulls in all of those different data sets. So the Active Directory data, the MECM data, and it puts it into Management Studio and gives you some really good understandings, insights into the estate, into security issues, into devices, users, optimization of applications, all sorts of interesting data. This is the tooling that a lot of companies are using to manage their IT evergreen and their migration processes. And what we're doing here is using it to produce that Engage report. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of the tool and try and give you a bit of an understanding as to how we create that report using this tooling. So first of all, this is using existing data sources. As Mark mentioned, Active Directory, MECM in this case. The tooling does support other data sources, but for Engage, those are our two main data sources. That allows us to do things like produce these fantastic dashboards where we can get insights into the applications that are being used out there in the estate. We've got workflow for all of those different moving parts, be applications, user migrations, and devices. That's more when you're looking at managing a transformation program or evergreen IT, less so about Engage. But it's a really powerful part of the tool that allows us to project things like readiness. And we've got various dashboard layouts you can see at the top here. My first one was a general overview, and this one is more of an applications-focused dashboard. But what I want to show you is, first of all, something about applications. One of the charts that Mark had in his presentation was this set of kind of snapshots from the Engage report. And one of them, the third one, is application rationalization. And how are we coming up with these numbers? We're obviously not just plucking them out of thin air. We've got a part of our tooling called ACE, which is the Application Confidence Engine. And I'll show you how that works. When we install this system or run the Engage setup, it gives us a set of applications out in the estate. And this tooling is pretty powerful in that previous customers who've used the tooling, and let me just bring this up. So I'm just going to select all those applications that it's found and run this ACE recommendations. So other customers who have used the tooling have made certain decisions with the application estate, be it marking applications as business apps or non-business apps, or rationalizing these applications. So all sorts of decisions would have been made. And what we're doing is capturing those decisions. And based on the number of people who have made a particular decision, we can give it a confidence rating. And that's what you're seeing in the confidence column here. So we can confidently, 85%, say that most customers are rejecting this particular product here. It's out there, it's in use, but it's probably a component of the operating system or maybe another Microsoft product. However, the Visual C++ is a valid application which people are managing in terms of they're creating some sort of deliverable, a package, or some sort of installer, and that will be pushed out there. And we've got other situations where there will be rationalization recommendations. Sorry, I'm just going to scroll down and see what we've got here. So here are a few versions of Adobe Reader, all version 10, so quite an old application. But what you can see is most people, 95% of customers, are accepting this as a valid application, but it's got some rule sets around rationalization. So this is the latest version, the 10.1.13. The earlier versions of 10 are recommended to be rationalized. And the lovely thing about ACE is you can automatically apply these recommendations by selecting them. You use this quick approve rationalization, they turn green, and then you hit apply here. So you can rapidly look at the application estate without needing huge insights into applications. You can make really informed decisions about how to carry applications forward. Something else we do is, as part of ACE, we add a category in here. So you can see this category. This is data that we're adding, and that again can help with understanding what applications are for and make decisions about those applications more rapidly. And it's through that ACE recommendations that we can then generate these kind of numbers around rationalization suggestions. We're not kind of handcrafting this stuff. We're just using automation to rapidly come up with this sort of data. So that's the application confidence engine. The next thing I want to talk about is data. Mark has already mentioned data. I'm going to move into another module, which is the user migrations module. So the Active Directory piece of this Engage report is what's providing this list of users. There's about 5,000 in here. And using data such as the OU that a user is in and MECM data, I'm just going to open up Russell Robertson here. We can start to see the sort of data that's possible with Engage. So simple things like the SAM account, the domain, the first name, last name, they're in there. Things like blueprints might be driven from an OU structure. So we know a department, we know a location, or equally they might be pulled out of an AD attribute. So that could be easily built up into our system of what we call blueprints. And they're a bit like folders. And I will talk a bit more about blueprints in a moment. But also we understand application usage for users. So this is the applications that Russell has been using and the devices. And quite often there will be multiple devices in here, especially if people are using VDI. And we're able to identify things like the primary device for a user based on application usage. So let me talk a little bit about blueprints. They're very powerful for reports, for pivoting data, or just for simply seeing who is in a particular department or location. So out of my 5,000 users, if I wanted to see who was in a particular city or country, I could see the 5 people in Cologne, or I could see everybody in Germany by clicking here, or I could see everybody in EMEA by clicking that folder there, which is what I'm going to do. And that's going to bring us down to about 800 people. Now what I want to do is look at something called the projection report. The projection report is, we understand what applications and devices people are using. So it allows us, let me just punch the numbers in here. They are going to do 10 apps per week, and I want to forecast for 12 weeks. What it allows us to do is it allows us to say, I want a set of recommendations about applications. I've got the applications selected here, which I should focus on if I want to migrate my EMEA users first off. I've said I can do about 10 apps per week, and that's just looking back historically at what the apps team can throughput, and I want to look ahead for the next 12 weeks. What it then does is it makes a 12-week plan. Each of these blue blocks are weekly efforts, and the green line is the number of people ready at the end of that week. And the beauty of this is the system is now telling us which applications to focus on each week so that we can migrate the maximum number of users, because we're going to focus on the most used apps first. So if I come in and click on week 1, week 2, week 3, you can start to see the apps pie chart goes up, and then the pie chart down the bottom left here is going up as more users are ready. So these are our green users going up and up and up. If I come back to week 1 and look at the applications for week 1, I just want the ones for that week, so I change it to point. And now I've got the 10 applications that I should be looking at in week 1. Here they are. And these are the 10 most used applications in EMEA. And part of the Engage report is about telling you where you should be focusing your effort for the next X number of weeks if you were to do some sort of transformation. But a really, really powerful report. And of course, if I want to see who is ready, so let's say I go to week 4 here, there's 166 people ready. Let me look at the point in time, and I can see, oh, sorry, no, it was accumulated. I was on the right one there. The 166 people are listed here because they're the ones accumulated over the past 4 weeks. A really, really powerful report, and that does make up part of the Engage report. Another big piece of the Engage report is devices. So I'm going to come in and look at my devices now. I've got about 5,500 devices. Now, the blueprints can equally be applied in users or devices or apps, in actual fact, anywhere. So if I wanted to look at the same region, so EMEA against my devices, I can use that same filter at the top here. And I've got about 1,000 or 1,400 odd devices in EMEA. And now what I want to do is have a think about the OS end of life situation. So again, I'll select those devices, and I've got a built-in report here, which is called OS end of life. And what you'll see here is, because we understand the operating system, the version, and we've also got knowledge around end of life dates, we can start to see which devices are going to be going out of support in the near future, which ones have already expired. So the amber ones are less than 6 months support left on that OS. And we can do things like group them. So if I were to group by support status, it's quite a nice view because it breaks it down by each of those 4 statuses. So the machines that have got less than 6 months support on the OS are here. So 162 machines in here. What I might want to do is do something with those machines. So what we can do is, if I were to filter by that in support less than 6 months, I can select them, and I might want to do something in bulk to them. So I could move them to a certain process. I could add a note to those. So it might be that I want to move them to a specific process or add them to a certain blueprint, so that those are the machines that we're going to be targeting next. And then I might run that projection report to understand, which users or apps that I need to look at to get those done as quickly as possible. And that is the sort of data that we are able to put into the Engage report. Another report I wanted to show you is to do with hardware compatibility. So I'm going to run this against that same set of machines, and it's another built-in report, which is all to do with Windows 11 hardware compatibility. We've been running this report against quite a lot of customer data, and we're finding, obviously it depends very much on the age of the estate, but a lot of estates are really struggling with Windows 11 compatibility on their hardware devices. And I'm just going to sort by host name. You can see in my data set, I've got a kind of a real mixed bag in terms of, are things going to be supported? It's things like the TPM version, secure boot, disk space. Those are all the sorts of key things we're looking at. And from that, we're able to give you this report. Ultimately, you want this right-hand column here, whether it's compatible with Windows 11 or incompatible with Windows 11. And this ties into the chart here that Mark showed you earlier on. This second chart, which is part of the Engage report, will give you stats around, if your machines aren't compatible with Windows 11, why they're not compatible. So that's how we're generating that. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavor as to what Management Studio is, how it works, and how we're able to generate that Engage report. We would love to hear from you if you'd like to see more of this. If you'd like to, have a look at that Engage report, see what sort of data we can get, from the existing sources on your estate, and give you some really good insights into next steps. So I'm going to now hand back to Mark, stop my share. Mark, over to you.
Let me just get my screen sharing. There we go. Brilliant, thank you, Ben. Okay, so yes, what Ben's done is walked through the process and what's behind your Engage report. What you will get out of this at the back end will be roughly a 35-page long report, and it will be presented back to you via a short workshop to help highlight and focus on key areas. And the idea behind this is it will help you make strategic decisions when you're planning your upcoming Windows 11 deployment, but also potentially for other projects that you might have in your estate. To wrap up, what I want to do is, first of all, thank you for your time today. We've deliberately tried to keep this relatively short and sweet to hit in under the half-hour mark so people can wrap up for their next meetings. I hope you found the session useful. If you have, as Ben said, would really like for you to reach back out to us and we can elaborate further on the Engage report, the process, or any other questions you might have about it. My main 3 takeaways that I wanted to leave you with from today's session, which I've repeated a few times, is this is a free of charge engagement. There's no cost to this. We will be delighted to get this set up for you and run the workshops with you and your teams. It's a quick to run engagement, so there's very little overhead to running this, literally under 30 minutes to get the tool set up, and then the time that at the end to run the workshop to present the findings back to you. And again, it's easy to set up. So the technical bar for getting this set up is very, very low. There's no complex rollouts or deployments. It's purely getting access to an engineer's machine with access back to Management Studio. At the end of the webinar, we'll be sending you out a PDF that will summarize what we've walked through today. And once again, we'll be really happy to hear from you with any questions that you might have around the engagement today. And if you've got any other questions, please reach out to us. Otherwise, thank you ever so much for your time on the call today. And I will close the webinar now. Thank you all.
Attendees 2, still got 2 attendees.